I have this idea for a show. No, stop. That's the view. I have this idea for a show, and I wanted the show to be about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And I wanted to have a Southern feel. I wanted to capture Southern style. So I didn't want the show to have a New York perspective. I didn't want an LA personality. I didn't want a Chicago or Midwest vibe. I wanted the South. So I thought I'd appropriately call the show Gumbo. Gumbo is a mix of everything spicy, everything seasoned. It's all sorts of things wrapped up into one. And that's what this show is going to be about. It's what us Southern girls are talking about. It's what our fine Southern gentlemen are doing. It's a mix of our culture. It's a mix of our cuisine. It's a mix of our class. It's the talk of the South. I am your host, Yolanda Martin Singleton, with Gumbo, cooking it up with Yeaux Yeaux. It's the talk of the South.
Good evening, and welcome to my very first episode of Gumbo, Cooking It Up with Yeaux Yeaux. It's the talk of the South. And my very first guest is none other than Dr. Gary Clark. And I chose Dr. Clark, and of course he accepted, to be my very first guest because he was so impactful and so influential on my journey to get me to where I am today. And I thought it appropriate that I start with the foundational topic and with a foundational guest. And so, Dr. Clark, can you, by way of background, give us an introduction of yourself? I know who you are, but let's let everyone else know who you are.
Well, currently, and I guess for the past 30 years, I serve now as a professor of political science at Dillard University here in the city of New Orleans. Also at the university, I wear quite a number of hats. I am the chair of the School of Social Sciences, which involves psychology, political science, urban studies, history, and urban studies, history, and also many other areas, a few others as well, other areas as well. I also am a Baron Hilton Endowed Professor of Political Science and a Rebus O. Artigue Endowed Chair of Political Science at the university. I'm the coordinator of political science, and I'm the program director for Project Pericles. And I've been at Dillard University now for the past 30 years. And you and I, so yeah, time flies. And I served at Xavier University for a number of years, 4 years, where I served with you when you entered as a freshman and left, and for 4 years there. And I was chair of the political science department at Xavier for a few years. And also, I've also worked at Spelman College in Atlanta, which was my first position in political science.
Yes.
I was there on the faculty of political science at Southern, and also where you are right now at Southern University of Baton Rouge. I was served on the faculty at Southern University of Baton Rouge for a year, and also a member of Southern University of New Orleans, soon known at New Orleans Political Science faculty for 10 years in the evening division. So political science is what I do.
Absolutely.
It's all said and done.
You've been busy, heavy. So you mentioned Xavier University. Xavier, of course, is my alma mater. And this is where I met Dr. Clark. I thought I was going to be a pharmacist. And so after the first year of chemistry and biology and lec and lab and all of that, I quickly knew that that wasn't my forte. But I wasn't quite sure what I would do. And I took a class in governmental affairs that summer. But when I met Dr. Clark in my very first political science class, that's when it bloomed, things opened up for me. It resonated with my spirit. And I knew I was kind of coming up on my right path at that point. The classes were so interesting. The topics were so interesting. And I thought, I perhaps can do this. And of course, we had our political public administration classes, and I knew I wanted to do that. I can't begin to tell you how impactful it was. I thought your background was interesting. I knew you had done your studies on Haitian government and all of that. And so it just all sort of sparked. I said, this is what I want to do. And from that very first political science class, that set my trajectory and just the nuggets and things along the way. We all of us, it was a special class. We thought we were the special class because we were the class that he followed all the way through. And so we call ourselves his star pupils. And I believed he called us his star pupils as well. Is that correct, Dr. Clark?
Oh, absolutely. And the most amazing thing is that, and I tell everyone about the cohort that you were in. And that particular cohort was powerful because regardless, it just wasn't a Gary Clark, because we had Al Stokes who was there, and Al Stokes went on to serve as administrative assistant to the mayor of the city of New Orleans, chief administrative assistant, and then went on to do the same thing in Mobile, Alabama. But you also had the former mayor Sidney Bartholomew, who was at Xavier during that period. And so the beauty of this is that you also was in a class of individuals who were just like yourself. They were high achievers. And let's say you had so many individuals who were part of your cohort who went on to become lawyers, judges, public officials, elected officials, civic participants, and professors, such as what you do, and practitioners. That is the beauty of having individuals who are in the same cohort, but also individuals who are like-minded. So you surrounded yourself with people who were upwardly mobile, and that's the beauty of the Xavier experience and what we had during that particular period. I call it the glory days.
It really was the glory days. I mean, it was magical. It really was. And I reflect on it. It's with me. It's with me now. It even your style of teaching shows up in how I instruct even at the law center. And so I remember my very first class wherein I was the subject of the Socratic method. Quickly what the Socratic method means. That means they're going to call on you and you're not quite prepared and you don't know. So every day we had to be super prepared in the class. And then we had this thing at the end, I'll digress for a minute, our 20-page papers at the end of every semester. And if we had him for 2 or 3 classes, we had a 20-page paper. And like he says, not 20 pages of fluff, 20 pages of meat, which meant it was really about 30 pages. Do you still do that with your students today?
Oh, absolutely. We do it because the necessity here is this, is that what we try to do is to get you ready for the next phase. And to be ready for the next phase, meaning that when you go on to graduate and professional school, which is what you did, so when you get there, you're going to be an impact player. And so you're not going to be fearful or afraid. And when you get there, it's going to be a piece of cake. The only thing you need to worry about is just the substance. What is it you need to learn? What is it that's going to be your approach? And so, yes, I still do that. And of course, you have generational change. You have every class has its own personality. And you do have to meet the students where they are. And so the key is to be flexible enough to know what students bring to the table. If students come to the table who are high achievers, then you can meet them on a high level. If they come and they're low achievers, then you got to raise the bar and teach them and let them know what they need to do. And so you have to be flexible. And you see that yourself, I know, in your law classes. And when you really expect students to come to you on a certain level, but then you're surprised by how much they not do know, but question how much that they do not know. And so that's the biggest issue, not how much they know, but how much they do not know. And so then it's up to all of us as professors, professors who are individuals of color, to meet them where they are. That's what makes us different.
Yes. And I'm glad you said that. And you mentioned, and I'll use that as my segue, you mentioned Spelman, you mentioned Xavier, you mentioned Dillard. These are all the universities that where you've had the opportunity to make impact there. and I think it's something special about the HBCU. I come up and being the minority in my classes from first grade to 12th grade, and oftentimes the only minority in the class. So I thought it was really appropriate and appropriate for my learning and my upbringing that I attend at HBCU. So you want to talk to us a little bit about the role of the HBCU now?
Well, the HBCU is highly important. For instance, you and I, we visit one another. I've been to your home. I've been to your parents' home. I've been to what I like to call the homestead,
Yes.
to Head of Valor, and oh yes, indeed, and yes, that's right, Prince Settlement, and so and the beat of it is, I've been there when a hurricane was not involved.
Right. Yes.
Oh yes, indeed.
Absolutely.
So what happens is that the role of the HBCU is that we get to know our students. We get to know, and we get to know them in a certain level because we appreciate our students. But there's something else special about the HBCU. Students who come to HBCUs, by and large, it is intentional. And I've discovered that many of them come, in many cases, often cases, their high schools are larger than our HBCU colleges, the private ones in particular. Their high schools are larger than Xavier and Dillard and Spelman, in many cases, the ones who come from the West Coast and other places. But they're, generally speaking, it's their parents, their grandparents, or someone who says, you know what, this is where you perhaps may need to be. And there are those who say the HBCU is not, the criticism is that it is not diverse. But guess what? The HBCU is absolutely diverse. And everything you get at a majority college in terms of diversity, you get in an HBCU. You're going to find professors who are hardcore. You're going to find professors who have different opinions, different belief systems. And so the HBCU in reality is the real world. It gets you ready for the real world. So when you get out there, you're not intimidated by anyone, anything, any place, any environment. And most importantly, you're not intimidated by their intellectual thought because you're prepared and you're there.
Absolutely. And I thought it quite interesting what you just said, that the HBCU is quite diverse. And we don't look at it like that. We never view the HBCU as diverse and think about it as inclusion, but it is just that, just what you said.
Yeah, it is diverse, and it's a place where you feel comfortable as well. And what I tell my students, and I said it at Xavier and everywhere, is that, look, this is the beauty of America, is that this is a place for you to find and make a mark for your world, because we're a small college. And so in these small colleges, these small private colleges, you pay an awful lot of money to get educated in these colleges. And so what I say is that when you exit these colleges, you don't exit with this purpose of sitting on the sideline. Your education costs way too much. Yeah. And so no, when you get out there and you get into the world, you're gonna do what you're doing right now: podcasting, also practicing as an attorney, but also working in the academic environment as a practitioner. As a practitioner and as an intellectual. That's the beauty of what we do, and that's the beauty of handing the baton over to the next cohort and the next group of individuals who are going to lead Black America and lead America, period.
Absolutely. And now, having said that, do you keep up with the students? Is there some type of performance evaluation, if you will? How do you know that you've been impactful? We've had the opportunity to remain in contact for the last 30 years. When I run into certain situations, I will call and see how you might handle something. We've had this relationship largely because of what you explained at the top of the conversation. But how do you know when you've been impactful? How do you know when the seeds you've sown are coming up? Well, let me say this. Last year, I received an award that perhaps of any award I may have received, period, is an award that actually touched my heart. It came from the National Conference of Black Political Scientists. That's the Black political scientists around the nation. And they gave me an award for mentorship, the James and Jewel Prestigious Award for mentorship for political scientists, students in the area around the nation. And so to be recognized as a mentor, a mentor around the country for individuals that you have taught
in different environments.
Yeah.
And that is the awards that professionally and personally means more to me than anything in the world, because you want your students to go out there and to be successful. You want them to go out there and have diverse opinions, and opinions which may be contradictory to even my own personal political beliefs, but I want them to go out there and make the difference. What I want them to do is what the current administration has talked about and criticized, is to engage in critical thinking, critical race thinking. And see, that's the role of the young black, the young intellectual, the young female, whomever it may be, to go out there and know how to make the critical analysis. If once you can make the critical analysis, then you can go out there and you can help your family, you can help everyone else, and people appreciate you because they know you bring to the table the analysis that is important and necessary.
Absolutely. That's it. Important and necessary. And so, yes, as our time is nearing an end here, and I heard you say something, and I started smiling when you say the structure and the substance, and I've always taken this with me. The structure remains the same. Only thing that changes is the substance.
That's right. That's right.
The only
Absolutely.
thing that changes is the substance. So, Dr. Clark, is there anything you want to leave our audience with before we close out? And we will be, parenthetically, we will be our next segment of the show, which we call the Nanny and Nee Show. It's a generational conversation we have, and the conversation is on mentorship. So that's
amazing.
It all blended together. Yes.
You see, we think alike. And let me say this. You see, I wore my Saints shirt today. Because this is Sunday, and I'm a firm believer in supporting the home team, no matter where you are and where you live. Support the home team and be part of the environment, and the people will appreciate you for that. I am honored because to be the first of anything, especially when it comes to broadcasting, is important. Whether it's on national radio or local or television, wherever it may be, your first guest is the guest that you bring on because you say, this is how I'm going to make a statement.
Yes.
And so I'm glad to be part of the statement that you're making, and I'm honored. You cannot imagine. I still look to this day at the award that your class gave me. I still have it. Yes, indeed. In my study, we call it man cave, but in my study as well, I still have that when I left the university, and I'm just honored and proud to be a part of this. And I hope that you can be a part of my programs and other things that I do as well. We've talked about this off camera. That you can be a part of what we do.
Absolutely.
Boy, I feel your energy. I feel the energy.
You feel it? I'm excited. I'm excited. I thank you so much. I had this in me for a long time, and it took a few years to come into fruition. And so I really thought it only befitting to have you as my first guest, as the person who set me on my trajectory, taking nuggets that you've dropped along the way, taking those along my journey. So this is just a full circle moment, as Oprah would say. It's a full circle moment with you. And I thank you. Most sincerely for honoring me with your presence on the show today.
And thank you for the invitation. My goodness, this is so scary. It's a mutual admiration society.
Yes.
It is so real.
Yeah.
And I feel your spirituality.
Look, audience, this is just my very first. The show is about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And Dr. Gary Clark is an ordinary person, not in any small sense of the word, but who is doing extraordinary things. And I thank you. And this is just our first segment of Gumbo, Cooking It Up with Yeaux Yeaux. But we will be back at you next episode with more of the same of our ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome back to Gumbo, Cooking It Up with Yeaux Yeaux. It's the talk of the South. And this is the segment that I love. This segment is called our Nanny and Nee segment. I'm Nanny. I'm Nee. And of course, I'm her godmother, and this is my goddaughter. But this segment is very much about generational conversations. I am representing the tail end of the boomers, and she is the millennial representative. And we want to piggyback off of the conversation we just had with Dr. Clark about mentorship. Mentorship. I just want to define it so that that guides our conversation. It's an experienced and trusted advisor. And then this definition I love, advise or train someone, especially a younger colleague, which is what I've been doing with Nick. So, Nate, if you can talk to us a little bit about how your generation views mentor. As I've just spoken with Dr. Clark, my generation is very much guided by a trusted person, a mentor. We walk on the tracks of those that have gone before us. So, how does the millennial feel about mentorship?
So, mentorship, I do believe that we feel that it's important. Just as when you came in my life, I was in the early ages of college and really didn't know what I wanted to do. But watching your friends and seeing you guys very successful and my upbringing and my family, I think that's what got it. And we don't think about family as mentors, but sometimes we can have family as mentors also. But I think my generation, especially when you become and you get into your careers, you will find certain people you connect with because they are in places you aspire to be. And I think that for my generation, that's what we do. We learn how to connect with those who are in places where we desire to be.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much similar to what we've done, but I find that my generation, we have mentors more, or it's more on the forefront for us. And probably because for me, and I think I can speak for the generation, we like to know what's ahead. We like to be calculated. We are not risk averse like millennials are. Talk a little bit about the risk aversion of millennials.
Right. So most times we're called the microwave generation. We don't want to wait on anything. But I think for us, we do. We have watched our parents kind of sit back and kind of, like you said, are more calculated. And I think for us, it's more, we have an idea, we're going to go for it. We're not really thinking about all the factors. We're not thinking about all the risks. It's more, I want it, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it. And I think the older we get, we become more calculated. But in your 20s, it's a goal, it's something I'm thinking about, and I'm going to do it. And I think what has changed for us now that we're in our early 30s or mid 30s, that we have more things attached to us. We're moms, wives, we're in our careers, so the risks are greater. So we still want it quicker than maybe your generation, but we do tend to move a little faster. You know, that's our thing. Knees slow down, but it's one of those things. Once we get an idea, that's it. We take it and run with it.
No grass grows under her feet. And I think she's a good representative of millennials. And now I must say, that is something that I'm just a tad bit jealous of. Because they are go-getters. They are fearless. When they say, I want it, they go get it. We watch it. We sit on it. Yes. We think about it.
Yes.
And oftentimes don't do it. Even me with this show. I sat on this show for a couple of years. Yeah. Initially, we were going to do the Nanny and Nee show, and then the Red Table Talk came. So we thought, oh, well, it's over for Nanny and Nee.
Right.
But when I put the other piece into it, and God gave me the Gumbo show to talk about the mix of our awesome Southern cuisine and class and culture here, then time came. It was time for Nanny and Nee to be birthed.
Yes.
But I will say, we do sit on things, and sometimes to our disadvantage, and things never come to fruition. Now, let me ask you, do you have any mentees? Do you all mentor anybody, or does it stop with you? Because I'm very much a pay it forward person.
Right. And I think depending on your mentor will ultimately show what you would do. So I think because all you have required of me is to pay it forward, I am definitely adamant about pouring into the generation that comes behind me. Many know I do work at the community college and I've overseen many programs, but I think I'm that person that take my job a little too serious. If I can take them all home with me, I would. But I do. I take time out to pour back into them because I am grateful. I'm thankful and grateful for my parents, for you, for other people who are successful in careers that paved the way for me to be who I am today. And I think the least I can do is pull someone forward as I continue to progress in my career.
And isn't it a really good
Yes.
feeling to see the product of what you've poured into, the seeds that you've sown, and to watch it? I know for me, and I call Niecy affectionately my divine child, my bonus kid, my child from another mother that her mom so graciously allows me to co-parent with her.
Yes.
But we have a very special relationship, and she has learned from me. I have learned from her, and it's just been a joy watching her blossom and watching her grow into the woman with her family and with her kids and as a wife. And if I can be quite transparent, our relationship really bloomed and grew, and she came into my life at a very good time, and it was a time where I needed her as well. And so I think the boomer and the millennial can have a really good mix. And so that's what we're talking about here. We're talking
Yes.
about gumbo. We're talking about mixing it all up. We're talking about what we're cooking, what's going on here in the South.
Yes.
Is there anything else, Niecy? Because I think this conversation probably deserves a little bit more time and more time than we
Absolutely.
have to devote to it on this segment. So you'll be hearing sometimes a little bit more from Nanny and Nee in between our gumbo broadcast. We may just come with special segments of Nanny and Nee. So look forward to it. We'll be pushing it out via platform, via Facebook platform, via YouTube, Instagram. She will be doing that.
Of
Facebook
course.
is what the older people are doing.
Absolutely.
So we're going to use all of the social media platforms to make it available to you. And we'll be bringing live chats to you in our future broadcasts. So this is our inaugural show
Yes.
of the Nanny and Nee segment of
Yes.
Gumbo. We hope you've enjoyed it.
Yes.
And we look forward to chatting with you later.
Yes.
And we're out.
We're out. Peace.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I've had an amazing time as I birthed my show that I have been incubating for a while. I'd like to thank my guest for today, Dr. Gary Clark, who is always a treat when I'm able to connect with them, or reconnect rather, and just be reminded of the seeds that were sown. And also I think about the seeds that I've also sown in others' lives. I also want to thank my very special guest, Anthony Davenport, who is my co-host for our Nanny and Nee segment. She's affectionately known as Nee. And so I thank her for her generational perspective and aspect on our conversations and topics. And hey, look for Nanny and Nee. We just may be dropping in between our broadcasts of Gumbo. So we'll be pushing those out via social media platforms. We'll be on Facebook. We'll be on Instagram, YouTube. Look for us. And also, if you like what you saw today, please like us, share it. Let's get some conversation going about what's cooking in the South. So we thank you. Until next time, thank you and bye-bye.